Discover which Hollywood A-listers shockingly said no to Spaceballs, and the wild reasons this cult classic barely hit theaters. Mel Brooks' iconic sci-fi parody shook Hollywood, but behind the laughs lurked chaotic casting battles, a secretive budget, and a surprising rule from George Lucas that completely shaped the film. And here's where things get really wild. Brooks wasn't aiming small. He had his sights set on Hollywood heavyweights, Tom Hanks and Tom Cruise. Both could have brought blockbuster star power, but the idea of a full-blown parody didn't sit right with either of them. Imagine the film with Hanks's charm or Cruise's intensity, completely different energy. Instead, Bill Pullman took the role. On paper, he was a practical, affordable choice, but what really mattered was the spark he created alongside Rick Moranis and John Candy. That trio had an electric chemistry, blending perfect comedic timing, absurd antics, and a quirky energy that arguably made the movie unforgettable in ways that Tom's never could. Just when it seemed Brooks was carelessly tossing money around, the budget story takes an unexpected turn. Spaceballs may look like a scrappy, low-budget sci-fi spoof, but nearly all $5 million went straight to Lucasfilm. Brooks trusted George Lucas so much that he outsourced post-production entirely, letting Lucas's team finesse the visual effects, spaceships, and gags. The masters polished every outrageous joke, elaborate spaceship, and wacky scene. On screen, it might look casual, but knowing the cash went to the right hands adds a whole layer of legendary Hollywood magic. Here's where it gets deliciously ironic. George Lucas gave Brooks the green light for Spaceballs, but only under one strict condition: no merchandise, zero toys, zero gimmicks. Yet somehow, the Spaceballs flamethrower gag exploded in popularity, arguably outshining some actual Star Wars toys of the time. Fans couldn't get enough of the joke. Brooks had pulled off a perfect prank, sticking to Lucas's rule while creating something unforgettable. The laughs rolled in, the merchandise remained absent, and the gag cemented itself as an iconic moment in parody history. Here is an underappreciated turn. Brooks had originally intended to name the movie Planet Morons. Funny, ridiculous, absolutely his flair. However, fate intervened in 1985 when a British film called Morons from Outer Space premiered in cinemas. Audience disorientation was bound to happen, hence Brooks had to shift swiftly. Following brainstorming, he settled on underappreciated with lots of screwball energy, marketing-friendly, and maintaining the space mood. Dark Helmet's spherical absurd helmet was also a light-hearted gesture to that smart wordplay, fusing design and comedy into one remarkable image. Get ready, though. It gets even more surprising. Most of Rick Moranis' statements were ad-libs. Every whiny tantrum and every wild meltdown emanated directly from his own repressed childhood irritations. The staff and crew could not cope. Mid-shot, cameras frequently stopped as everyone bent over laughing, some even shedding tears at the utter pandemonium. Dark Helmet strikes me as so alive, wild, erratic, and surely unforgettable. Moranis let Mel Brooks run wild and poured a lifetime of sulks and quirks into one wonderfully imperfect villain. What happens? Proving villains can take center stage without one single serious threat, this character is at once irritating, absurd, and side-splittingly hilarious. And here's where it turns painfully real. Pizza the Hutt was designed to be outrageous, but the costume was a nightmare. Real melting cheese and slime oozed over a rubber base. It was basically molten lava to wear. Actor Richard Caron suffered actual burns and eventually walked off the project, while Dom DeLuise, the voice, refused to touch it. The joke on screen was genius, but behind the scenes, pure chaos. Every take brought pain, yet Brooks demanded perfection. It's absurd comedy on film, but backstage, it was a sweaty, slippery, painful circus of chaos that made the humor even more legendary. Just as you believed the Spaceballs mania couldn't become any more bizarre. Brooks attempted to reintroduce the cosmos in 2008 with Spaceballs, the animated series. The program aired softly, barely creating a stir, for just one season with 13 episodes. The original actors did not return, therefore leaving with them the charm, timing, and chemistry that made the movie famous. Animation could not match the off-the-cuff improvisation, crazy energy, or turbulent genius of Brooks' team. Those who loved the movie were not satisfied, and the show vanished discreetly. It was like seeing a ghost attempting to imitate the original. Fun on paper, but lacking the energy that made Spaceballs into a cult classic. The renowned radar jam scene is one that raises the word absurd to another level. For the gag, the prop team employed real strawberry jam. Originally, it seemed absurdly faultless, messy, silly, and extravagant. But then disaster struck. The jam clogged the ventilation system, bringing filming to a complete stop. Before shooting could go on, the crew had to rush to clear the sticky mess. Although backstage pandemonium reigned, Michael Winslow's sound effects brought the scene to life. The joke grew into a production disaster, demonstrating that Brooks' love for the absurd often came with a dirty, very actual expense, not only in terms of visual humor. And here is a behind-the-scenes jewel fans could never notice. The Police Academy sound magician Michael Winslow became a one-man audio team for Spaceballs. Live and flawlessly timed, every beep, zap, and whoosh from the radar came exactly from him. Winslow provided everything naturally. However, adding a layer of energy that animation or post-production could never duplicate, even though the studio may have spent thousands on sound gear or effects. These small, brilliant details give the movie a pulse. Subtle magic that sneaks up on you and reminds you how much talent and imagination went into every absurd, funny incident. But hold on, it gets even more delightfully absurd. Remember the infamous comb the desert gag? Brooks literally took a studio note and ran with it. Two guys dragging giant combs across the sand. Classic Brooks-style absurdity. But chaos struck when one comb snapped mid-take and there was no backup. The crew had to stop everything and tape it together right on the spot. And yes, all this madness happened in the blazing Imperial Sand Dunes National Park near Yuma, Arizona. Sand everywhere, props breaking, crew laughing uncontrollably. It's a tiny moment that perfectly embodies the physical comedy and ridiculous attention to detail that defines Brooks' genius. Here's something fans often overlook. Bill Pullman studied Luke Skywalker and Han Solo to craft Lone Star. He didn't simply imitate them, he fused Luke's earnestness with Han's swagger, humor, and charm, creating a hero who was both heroic and hilariously ridiculous. Lone Star is a Millennium Falcon pilot wannabe who somehow wins the princess, a perfect balance of parody and homage. Brooks let Pullman explore the character freely, and the results were magical. The charm of Lone Star lies in this delicate mix, brave, flawed, and endlessly funny, proving that parody works best when it respects its source material while adding something fresh. And here's a subtle Easter egg that still delights fans. The Millennium Falcon actually appears in the film, not flying, not battling, just parked outside a diner while Lone Star and Barf walk in. Brooks' tribute is subtle, clever, and easy to miss if you blink. It's a wink to the original Star Wars universe, showing Brooks' affection for the source material even as he skewers it. A parked spaceship becomes a moment of pure fan joy, proof that even the smallest touches in Spaceballs are loaded with love, humor, and cinematic wit. And here's where the legend himself paid the price for comedy. Mel Brooks played both President Scroob and Yogurt, but the Yogurt costume was pure agony. Layers of gold paint, hours of intense makeup, and constant skin irritation made even small movements painful. Yet Brooks persisted, determined to control the timing and land every joke perfectly. Enduring discomfort, chaos, and madness was all part of his method. That's Brooks at his finest, committed to absurdity, willing to suffer so audiences could laugh uncontrollably, turning personal torment into cinematic brilliance. And here's a backstage nightmare fans rarely see. John Candy, strapped into the massive Barf costume, had to carry a 30-pound battery pack on his back. 3 technicians manipulated his tail and ears, but chaos was inevitable. Candy often shouted at them, convinced they were overdoing it. Acting funny while wrestling a moving suit sounds impossible, yet he nailed it. On screen, Barf is pure laughter, Behind the scenes, it was sweat, grunts, and non-stop improvisation. A perfect storm of comedy meeting physical chaos. And finally, news fans have been waiting decades to hear. Brooks always joked about a sequel. Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money. Now, in June 2025, Amazon MGM officially announced Spaceballs 2, The Schwartz Awakens, set for a 2027 release. Promising more absurd gags, over-the-top spoofs, and probably more chaos behind the scenes, this long-awaited sequel aims to revive the cult classic's wild energy. Fans are buzzing. Could this be the ultimate parody comeback? Only time will tell. And here's the ultimate twist. George Lucas watched the test screening and loved it. He called Spaceballs a loving spoof and admitted his only regret was not thinking of yogurt first. With Lucas's blessing and Lucasfilm's post-production support, Brooks had the freedom to push the comedy to absurd heights, creating a polished cult classic. From broken props to jam-clogged sets, Spaceballs proves Mel Brooks thrives on controlled chaos. The laughs, improvisation, and Lucas's approval made it legendary. Which Spaceballs moment cracks you the most? Share in the comments, and if you love this deep dive, hit like and subscribe. More wild, behind-the-scenes stories are on the way.